I cried for almost 2 to 3 days.
The revenue growth was
66.2 CR.
Joining me is Yashodhan Panse, founder behind WeHydrate, a hydration drink.
For orange, it took me almost 356 trials. Lemon, it was 120. Mixed berries, it took me 428. And pineapple was another 200. So these many recipes were developed before finalizing one single recipe.
What was marketing channels which actually work and what are the waste of time?
First thing, ads waste of time. They don't work. The most important marketing is mouth-to-mouth publicity. So within a month's time, I had 1,000 to 1,500 requests. So it was all mouth-to-mouth publicity. I did an event called people who are getting into new B2Cs or understanding new B2Cs, what are their food is the platform for it. They were also helping me out with multiple sources, their clients, their clientele, their future sub-distributors and other stuff. That one event changed my entire perspective with the international market.
How did you realize the gap in the market?
So,
when did you decided to get an exit?
I realized that what am I working for? I'm working for the family. If my family needs me to be there at that point of time, I have to divert my mind. But then I realized I was not giving 100% both place. And that led to a lot of complications to me itself. I was completely disheartened.
Welcome everyone to Veekay Talks. On our channel, we invite many guests from the industry who are working in different fields in SME sectors. And before we proceed for this episode, I would like to request you to please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also share this video with other people and as well as your friends who would be benefited with this type of content. Most people see a product on their shelf and move on. Very few people get to hear the story of the person who built it from scratch and then made a bold decision to let it go. Today we are doing exactly that. Joining me is Yashodhan Panse. He is the founder behind WeHydrate, a hydration drink brand built from ground up right here in India. But this conversation is not just about the brand, it's about decisions, it's about emotions, it's about failures, it's about what truly takes it to build something and then walk away from it. So let's get into it. So welcome Yashodhan to our Veekay Talks. So Yashodhan, we will start with what was your previous experience before WeHydrate?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's been a pleasure to be here with you and discussing multiple things. So before WeHydrate, I was typical like middle class mentality. Did my bachelor's in BTech in biotechnology, then studied masters in UK, and from there the campus placements was placed in jobs. So I was working in US. From campus placement, I was selected for a company in US. So I was working there for almost 3.5, 4 years before starting anything. And that is the place where actually it gave me exposure to a startup culture in general.
Okay.
And that being said, when I went to US for a while, when I was working there with the company that I was working with, it's called KLG Spices. The owner was a very good, known, reputable person in the entire fraternity, especially in the food sector in the US itself. And when I started working with him for first 6 months, I gave him multiple new products which were not in his pipeline, and he was very impressed by it. And then he is the one who provoked me and gave me the entire leverage that why don't you decide the future of the company with the innovations, with the pipeline of the projects, and with everything, right from a new product, completely new to the line that we are doing, a completely new product lines. Also, that being said, he also gave me a full leverage that if you want to install new machinery, install new plants, lines, everything you are free to do. You are the whole and soul for it, for this thing, which kind of enhanced me with the startup culture that is required, because that is an MNC company, so it doesn't facilitate that much, but they gave me a good startup culture opportunity there itself. So that's how I started with the whole startup mindset.
So WeHydrate is not your first baby. Before that, this was your
So yeah, I mean there were other babies involved initially as well, but they were not I mean, I was not the owner per se. There were other owners, there were other companies and other parties involved. It was just that it was my brains, and the finances and everything else was handled by someone else. So that was the initial part of it.
So, where did the first spark or the idea came into mind about the WeHydrate?
So honestly speaking, since I was in US, I always had a thought that, well, I'll go to US, I'll work there for a while and return back to India. So from my childhood, my only dream was to do betterment for the community. Now it could be in any ways possible. I was not focused at whether I will do teaching, whether I'll do education, anything, any of that sort. I just want to do something betterment for the people, and that was my first and primary focus. Coming to how this idea started is basically I started researching a lot, doing a lot of data and understanding the data analysis part of it is what is the biggest sector that drives. Then obviously I understand food is one of the biggest sector that drives. In that, beverages is obviously one of the leading factors. Now in beverages, I can short it down. What is the next biggest beverage available into the market? And I realized that about, I would say, 65 to 70% of the market is all with bottled water. So practically water is the main source of beverage. Then I dig deeper down. I also understood that most of the sodas or the juices or energy drinks that we consume, they faced the first more main component in that those ingredients is water. So really, okay, water is the main thing. That is what people are paying for. What are paying is basically for the water. Now, how can I, as an individual, help them to grow into that water category and giving them something better? That was the whole thought behind it. So basically, it was data driven, as well at the same time, it was some ideas that were jumbling in my head to play around water. So that was the whole hydration workout thing that I started practically in my mind. Coming to WeHydrate, it was more focused that first of all, it took me a lot of time to get into the market requirement here. And then there were certain problems which I had faced, obviously. So those problems, how to overcome those things, problem situations. So all these things compiled me to get into hydration as a core category.
Okay. So, WeHydrate was the only your brainchild, or anyone was involved with you?
No, it was completely my own, from right from my scratch of R&Ds, recipes, product packaging, development, manufacturing, selling, everything. Also, it was one man show, practically running the whole factory per se, I would say.
Yeah. And tell me about WeHydrate. How did you realize the gap in the market, or how did you, because hydration means water, drinking water, so it's right from education to selling is
Yeah.
a very big way to go.
Yeah. So when I like, just I said, like when I was looking at the data analysis, I realized there were three major points to be focused on. First, obviously, was the price. In India, it's a price sensitive market. Everyone in India works with prices. The lower the price and the better product that you give, that is the first product that they will pick it up. So price was the first thing. Second thing was the quality of products. So whatever products were available in that market when it comes to different hydration purposes, that were isotonic drinks, there were sports drinks, there were hydration drinks, there were some energy drinks, all those drinks, they were all made up with artificial chemicals and were all too sweet. I mean, they were over sweetening because of all sugar and sucrose and all the other components that they used to add. That was the second biggest problem. And the third problem that I figured out was the logistics. So what I understood after getting all the analysis done is, for example, let's say one pallet has 100 liters of product. That is roughly, let's say, 200 bottles of 500 ml each. So shipping out that would be a bit of a hassle. Rather than that, since all the other products which are made in the market have 80 to 90% water, what if I remove the water and get into a concentrated format to them, and that would work out best, so that I, in a smaller pallet wise, so on the logistic purposes, I can give them better. And the other factor during working with this, I realized that especially the Gen Zs and the millennials, they are more environmental friendly. They like betterment to the environment. They like all this green culture, everything. So focusing on that, I realized that most of the servings were done in PET bottles, which are single serving plastics. So what can I do to remove that as well? So that was one more problem that I focused on. And looking at all these problems, I tried to find a solution. That was my whole agenda behind working with WeHydrate. And I did not wanted to have like in each problem have a different solution. It was each problem should have one complete solution to satisfy all the needs, and that is where the WeHydrate as
Okay,
the
but
brand evolved.
how did you conceptualize or rather marketed your WeHydrate successfully?
Okay, so what was biggest driving factor for me was when I was working with these things, I realized water obviously is the prime source and prime drinking capacity. Now people are habituated to drinking water, but at the same time they realize that water doesn't satisfy or completely fulfill their needs that is required for their body. There was a missing link which we call as micronutrients. So the micronutrients which was a missing link which people used to consume in form of medications, like you have these multivitamin tablets and all the other nutraceutical products which are there in the market, but those are again preferred by the like upper middle class, elite class people, and not for the general public. General public never used to consume all these things. And with the new trend or new working around capacity that is there, like corporate culture, outside food and everything else, you're not able to get those natural vitamins which are available from the food. So in order to replenish that gap of vitamins, minerals, salts that is required for your body to function it properly, I derived a solution where it was one product. So the name WeHydrate actually came from like we help you with hydration. So the whole idea is you drink water, but with water, if you drink these particular ingredients or these products, so they have different flavors. So I had got hydration products, I had got energy products, I had got milkshake products. So again, everything with water. So milkshake also with water itself. So there was other ingredients with that were added in order to convert it into milk. So the whole idea here was to promote water as the prime source. At the same time, having these micronutrients added to your products in such a way that they help you consume and make yourself as a better human being.
So how did you develop the formula?
That
What
was
was your process of R&D?
yeah. So there were a lot of issues when it came to R&D. It took me almost 6 to 8 months just to
Because
work.
I think it was just a pure organic.
Yeah, it was some ingredients that I used were organic, obviously. Some of them were all natural. So what I tried to do is I tried to, as I told you, there was a problem with all these artificial chemicals and artificial sweeteners available in the market. I thought, what should I do to replace it? That was my first question. Before that question came into my mind, I also know that India being a very price sensitive market, I have to restrain my entire product in a stipulated price. Now, so in technical language, you call it as CIU. So that's cost in use. So what is the cost in use for the consumer? I know in India, it's called, there's a system called as one note system. You pay one note and you get one product out. Now GPay, everything is fine. But earlier it was all like one note, one product system. So I wanted to get into that mindset because then people have already been used to that one note, one, like you give 10 rupees, you get this product, you get 20 rupees, you give this product, you get 100 rupees, you get this product. So there was a fixed mindset that they had. So first and foremost thing for me was the cost in use. I worked on the cost in use by saying that, okay, I would not want my product to go about 10 rupees for a single glass, 20 rupees for a glass of 3 and 40 rupees for a glass of 6. That was my whole agenda. Why? Because everyone has a different serving size, family servings, individual servings, and that's how I worked on it. Now, first was your price structure. So getting into this price structure was the initial part. Once the price structure was done, now came to the R&D part. Like how could I do the product better in that rupees? Now I know my target limit of my consumer would buy is at 10 rupees. I know that consumer would not buy more than that. That was my first primary thought process. So getting into those 10 rupees bucket, now I have to fill in the entire ingredients that fit less than that particular value. First thing, obviously looked at other options which are there. I looked at oranges, orange juice concentrates, orange powders, everything. And some things somewhere here and there were going left and right. Let's just give you orange for an example. So for orange, then I realized what I can do is I can have this Valencia orange. So I can have Valencia orange powder, which is very strong. At the same time, at a lower dosages itself, it will give that right aroma, right intensity, and right sweetness to the product. So I had that. Along with that, obviously, I had my multivitamins, I had my salts, I had my minerals added to the product, which made it into a compact structure. Now that compact structure initially when I tasted was all in a bottle format. Now I wanted to remove the water part of it and make it as a powdered soft drink. So that was the whole idea behind it. Getting into those powdered soft drinks was a biggest headache for me because reworking on that recipe and making it sure in a powder format so that it is not just one on quality, because quality is king in any I would say food products that are there. Second part of it was once with the quality, it has to have a good shelf life, so product shouldn't deteriorate or shouldn't change its structure and everything else. And third important thing is the taste. The taste has to be constant. It has to be right tasting to the consumer. So if I give if I give an orange which is right in taste that a consumer understands, it is good. But if you see our oranges which are available abroad, they're all bitters. So getting into all those understandings and working out on the product was one of the big, I would say, not a headache, but more work it took of mine. I was almost working on R&D aspects for almost 6 to 8 months, getting everything right. And once the product was right, then I realized, okay, let's start up with lab scale equipment, and we call it as kitchen lab work. So start with the kitchen lab work and get the products done. That's how it started.
Okay. How many attempts?
For
Be honest with that.
Yes. So I'll tell you. I started with, so first of all, I identified what are the flavors that practically Indian people consume. So that was my first agenda to it. The first and foremost was orange, which is loved. Second was lemon. Third was a different tonality, especially focused on the new generation, which is mixed berries. And fourth and foremost, which is sweet tooth, loved by everyone, is pineapple. I did not want to go to mango. I did not want to go to lychee. I did not want to go to pomegranate, because those are some certain things which people are used to. I wanted to give them a bit of twist, but with the natural extracts, natural powders that are available to them, without obviously all these artificial chemicals and sweeteners. Working on that, for orange, it took me almost 356 trials was for oranges. Lemon, it was less. It was 120, because pretty much because both being lemon and orange being a citrus fruit, getting into the right what we call Brix acidity ratio, or the taste ratio that we call it. So it was quite easy with lemon. It was somewhere around 120. Mixed berries, it took me 428. And pineapple was another 200 plus or minus. I don't remember exact number for pineapple, but these when the recipes were developed before finalizing on the single recipe. So there was a lot of work that went into it. A lot of work went into R&D and making sure that product, it is not just that the product, okay, we did it today, it tastes nice. It has to taste nice at the end of 2 years, at the end of 18 months. So that work also I kept on doing.
What was the timeline for to develop this product?
So for orange, basically for orange and lemon, it was 8 months total. And while working on that, I initially launched orange and lemon. Initially, that was my first one. Working on that parallelly, it took me around another 6 months for mixed berry and 3 months extra for
orange pineapple. Was your first?
Orange was my first baby. Orange, lemon were the first two, because obviously I didn't want to go into market with one single product. I wanted at least 2 variants to be consumed, and then I went with the other 2 within a period of 3 months timeline.
Okay. So after development, what was your hardest part? Manufacturing, compliance, distribution, trust about your product?
So there are multiple hurdles actually, because from an R&D perspective, now I had to get into the commercial perspective. So from an R&D perspective, it was all good to understand, okay, the product is stable, everything is working fine. Let's now get into the commercials. For the commercials, as I wanted to make it a powder component premix, I had to rework on the formulations a bit here and there, looking at the equipment that is required. So looking at the equipments that I had to buy certain equipments which were imported. Obviously, some were locally manufactured, some were imported, especially from Spain and China. So I had to import from these areas, these countries, and get this product out. So that was one big hassle. Another big hassle was the legality issue, because getting into those compliances, legality, FSSAI regulations, making sure that all your products are FSSAI approved, all those things took me a lot of time. Yes, I know what FSSAI, how they work like, but getting it actually on the floor was a bit of a hassle for me when it comes to the government regulatory body. It was nice. Obviously, they are quite helpful. They are not. It was not as complicated. They're quite helpful. They help you out with all the other formulations that you can do and what all changes is required. So they're good consultants as well. So I had to go through a couple of consultants to get everything through. That was the hurdle. And the other hurdle that I faced was, people would say, I have water. Why would I buy a bottled water? And that is where my product came into place. You know what? Here's your water. Here's your functional water or water with benefits. Here's a product which stands in between, which you can utilize in any of the bottle that you have. So you don't have to buy a bottle. You have a glass, you can use it in a glass. You have a homemade bottle, you can use a homemade bottle. You have a home vessel where you store all your bottles. You can use where you store all the water. You can use the product there. Today you want to find orange. Okay, here's the orange flavor. Tomorrow you say I'm tired with orange. I need a new flavor. Here's a lemon, and that's how the other flavors worked out across it. And looking into that perspective, hurdles were there when it comes to compliance and other stuff. Manufacturing was not a big hurdle because, as I told you, in the US, I was working a lot with this manufacturing plant. So I know exactly how a manufacturing plant would work out, what would be the layout, how it is to be structured so that there is no cross contamination and everything else. So that was quite taken care about for me, but the compliance and everything else was there. And one more hurdle for me was the marketing perspective. I mean, nowadays, you might have the best product in the world, but if you can't market it out, it won't sell. So, marketing was one big hassle for me. I had to get through multiple marketing journals, approaches, different marketing perspectives to just make sure that my product is marketed in the right place, because educating a consumer takes a lot of time. I am a believer that you are wasting your time if you're trying to educate a person. Because if you try to educate a person, you're wasting 3 to 4 years of your business time. Because it will, for them to inherit that taste or inherit that purpose, it will take around 3 to 4 years of time. And to cover up that, I would not educate them. I'll just give them the taste that they are known to in just a different packaged format.
Okay. So, I would like to ask you, you talked about your marketing
Yes.
channels and everything. What was your biggest challenge? So, what was the marketing channels which actually worked, and what are the waste of times?
Okay, first thing, ads, waste of time. Let me
Okay.
be upfront. Ads are waste of time. They don't work.
Any digital or
Any
anything.
digital ads, paper ads, they don't work. You unnecessarily spend extra on it, unless and until you're very you're funded heavily. You have got, let's say, a big shot cricketer or film industry or some other guys who are promoting your product. Then it becomes a different issue. That's a different ball together. For a bootstrap product where you don't have any funding, you are doing everything from scratch. Ads are the last thing that you would like to do. First thing is, obviously, for marketing is the social media. So whatever you put on your social media, how much you convey to the consumer at social media, that works the best. There are activities on social media, so you can get into those activities, make sure that marketing is being done to the right people. There are certain stipulated timelines and time zones that you have to put up a post or put up the data so that it reaches to the right person at the right moment of time, which are all available online. So there's no, I didn't have to learn everything from scratch. It was available online free of cost. So just utilizing that was one of the good things that I was able to achieve. So marketing wise, social media is a great marketing platform, and the most important marketing is mouth to mouth publicity. You cannot beat it ever. I mean, I've had people, like the first person who bought from me, I still remember his name. His name is Mr. Sawant. I know where he stays. I know he was my first customer who bought from me. I'm not kidding you. Within a month's time, I had almost 1,000 to 1,500 requests from Mr. Sawant for his friends. So it was all a mouth to mouth publicity. I did not force Mr. Sawant. I did not tell Mr. Sawant. I did not give him any discount on the product as well. It was all mouth to mouth publicity that works. So that is your biggest marketing strength. And giving consumer the satisfaction, that becomes your marketing. So you give a quality product, you give the consumer what they want, it works out to the best as marketing.
But how did you build a trust? Because in this market, the skepticism is very high.
Yes, absolutely. So to build a trust, one thing foremost is best part is I started with flea markets.
Okay.
I started with all the flea markets across Pune, across Maharashtra, across Bombay, across different tier 1, tier 2 cities. Everywhere there were flea markets. And it happens, I would say, every quarter there are at least 2 or 3 flea markets.
Yeah.
First thing what I did was I went to those flea markets, showcased my product out there, got the trust of the customer, actual customer. This was not via any distributor, this was not via any retailer, nothing of that sort. It was hardly focused directly to the consumer's heart, because I wanted to be there for the consumer, because as I told you, I wanted to do something good for the community and to the people of India. So I thought on it, and that's the first thing that came to mind. Let's go to consumer focus. Some consumers, they gave me a good feedback to rework on certain recipes that I would like to do in future. And because obviously when you talk to a consumer, you should not have, okay, this is my product, you like it, you taste it, is it good, okay, this is the price, okay, done. That doesn't work with the consumer. You have to talk to them, you have to make them, why do they have to build in the brand? Because so I started with hydration, I moved to energy drinks, then I moved to milkshakes. I had gut health already focused, I had skin, I had beauty, I had bone health, and then I had woman friendly drinks. All of them were already in pipeline. So all the products, when people understood, okay, this guy is not just working for a particular product, or he's not there just for selling. He's actually trying to do a health beneficial things for us in a way which is quite feasible and quite reasonable and reasonably priced. At the same time, quality bang on target. So that was how I gained the trust of all these consumers.
Okay.
And that was the consumer front. Gaining trust of distributors was a bit of a hassle, obviously, because they wanted more margins, more cuts on each and every product that we had. One thing that I was able to help them out was on the logistics. As I told you, one pallet cost you, 1,000 liters. My pallet would cost you, will give you will give you more than 10,000 liters. People are like, oh, this makes sense. I'm saving a lot of logistics cost. I'm saving a lot on storage cost. I'm not paying extra. I don't have to refrigerate the product. I can just keep it over the counter, over the shelf. And that is how they were able to convince. I was able to convince them, gain their trust that this is how it works out, giving them the right product feedback, giving them the right product. This is what the product, how it has to be showcased. If anyone asks you any questions, these are the things that you can showcase out to them. Or practically, this is a QR code. Just tell them to scan. They'll get every information that we want. So all my packets had a QR code which had all the necessary. Why am I adding a particular ingredient? What is the use of that ingredient? And how does that ingredient actually help you to make yourself as a better human being? So everything was coded in a QR format to the product. So they were looking for those perspectives. That's how I got the trust.
Okay. So you started developing the WeHydrate.
Yeah.
Till you decided to exit. What was the time span?
So it was total time span was of 3 years to be that I decided to exit.
And the revenue growth was?
It was I did a overall, my last was 66.2 CR. That was my last growth completely.
Right.
And so I started with India. So then during working with this, I also realized that I did an event called as Ahar, which is a very well known event across India. People who are getting into new B2Cs or understanding new B2Cs, what are there in food. Ahar is the platform for it. So I went to Ahar, had a not a very big, but like a decent size stall, getting all the consumers up front, everything. That is the time that the distributions came into place. So not just my Indian distributors, they were also helping me out with multiple sources, their clients, their clientele, the future sub-distributors and other stuff as well. But there's one thing that exposed me was to international market. So Ahar, I'm actually grateful to that Ahar event, because that one event changed my entire perspective with the international market. So I had many international distributors, and international distributors were actually bamboozled with the product. They were not. It was not just on the taste or the price. They were like, the way it has been, ease of use, the way it is so easy to be utilized. So there's no complication, there's no blender, tanks and everything else. It is practically just open the sachet, put it in a glass of water, that's it. It dissolves on its own. You don't have to stir it for a while. Yes, stirring makes it a bit faster, but you don't have to stir it for a while. You can just consume it. And they realize that if I'm exporting or if I'm importing, let's say, one entire pallet or one container, which is going to give me X amount of price, I can get the same amount of benefit I can get in 2 to 3 pallets. So I don't have to buy the entire container, which was the biggest moving advantage for me. There's one funny thing that I would like to tell you also in this is, so when I was exporting it to Africa market, I propose this product as a hydration health alternative, good product to be consumed for betterment. You will be surprised that in Africa it was used as a mixer. So there, it is the drinks that you get there are mostly molasses based, ENA based. So there are a lot on those things, not with the actual spirits that you get. So most of the products that you get for the local market, they are mostly ENA based. So people thought of using that, adding my lemon hydration drink, mixing it together, and having it as a mocktail, as a cocktail. The way they loved it, and I was surprised that, see, this was the thought that never came to my mind as well. But consumers gave me a good feedback, and that was, I was like, sir, I mean, I was just asking the student, like, how do you do it? Like, I did not even convince. He was like, I was selling it over a store. I was selling it to my 50, 100 retailers, outlets, giving them these products. I did not know. Somehow it picked it up, and it picked up in the market itself. And people started to buy out those things as a mixer. So it was one big thing for me. Obviously, I exported a lot to Middle East. Obviously, Middle East, I had to do a lot of repackaging, rebranding, everything else. But Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, and UK was my primarily thing. And I had just done one shipment to US.
Okay.
Just one shipment to US, because that is the time that I decided to have an exit from from WeHydrate.
Okay. So, when did you decided to get an exit?
There's not an immediate decision. It was a huge tackle for me, because it was more of emotional as well as business perspective. Me and my wife, we were expecting, and we were pregnant. So there are a bit of complications during those pregnancy, and I am a person who used to work almost 20 hours in the factory or on the field, getting the product out, making sure, working hardly to get everything out into the market. And then I realized that, what am I working for? I'm working for the family. And if my family needs me to be there at that point of time, I have to divert my mind. So from 20 hours, I did to 18 hours. From 18 hours, I did to 16 hours. So I spent time with family, and then I spent time with the business as well. But then I realized I was not giving 100% both places. Neither I was doing 100% business, neither I was doing 100% of my family time. And that led to a lot of, I would say, complications to me itself, health wise as well as psychology wise. Because when I'm with family, I used to get calls of customers, we need this, we need that. And when I'm with business, sometimes, we have to rush to the hospital, we have to rush here, just come back soon. So there was a lot of mixed things happening with me.
This decision was more emotional.
Yes.
Than strategic.
Yes, it was all emotional. There was no strategy involved in it. It was all emotional. I had to be with the family. See, as I told you, earlier also, when I was in US, I had gone there for experience, because eventually I wanted to come back to India because for my family. I'm the only child, so I have to be with the family. That was my focus. And then with the wife and kid.
And can you walk us through the process of selling a brand?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Right from first conversation to finalization of deal.
Sure. Absolutely. So first and foremost thing is, your brand has to speak for yourself. You don't have to promote a brand. So as I always used to tell all my sales colleagues, which are very few, but I used to tell them that if you keep a product at the best quality, at the best price, at the best service that you can give to the consumer, it will sell. You don't need a salesperson for it. It will sell on its own. That was my first biggest thing that I thought about. Talking to multiple, actually, I did not start in talks with for selling off. There were global MNCs who approached me because they realized that I was taking a bit of part, and it was a part and parcel of the entire share of the market that was there. It's a huge market. So I would just consume about 1%, 1.2% of the entire market share. So they were like, it shouldn't go to this new guy. So they were already approaching me from my startup days. Especially it started when I did my first exports to the Middle East, where Middle East was the biggest market for most of the Indian beverage brands. So they realized, oh, we're losing the shelf space. Losing a shelf space is the biggest thing that a company could do, especially in the food and beverage sector. So they had approached me multiple times. Obviously, I said no, because that time it was not focused. First thing, foremost thing that when it comes to exiting is you have to have your own foreground. You have to be firm on the grounds because you have developed a product with a vision, with a mission that someone else may or may not carry. That is one thing that you have to first satisfy. You have to make yourself understand that, okay, this is my vision. It may or may not get carried. If you are okay with that initially, then is the only time you should think about, exiting or selling a brand. First thing, you have to convince yourself out. Post convincing, you have to talk to these buyers or investors of upfront. What is the next thing that they are looking forward to? What is their vision when they buy out? Everyone will give you multiple things. We'll do this with the brand, we'll change it with our tagline, it will be suited with our taglines and everything else. We have our own marketing team, everything. So they'll just give you a whole, I would say, a story around it. But eventually you have to understand, and that is the truth. I would say bitter truth that is there in the market is any new brand that comes into place, if a older brand or more registered brand feels scared, he'll buy you out, obviously, and then kill your brand. And that will happen, and that you have to agree to that. You have to have your own strategies to how I can request for my price. So if I am, let's say I'm doing a product or my total valuation of my company is 100 rupees at date today, how can I get the 100 rupees? And looking at future of my sales and everything, forecasted sales, forecasted projections, what is the best sales or what is the best revenue I can sell at the company? And convincing that takes a lot of time. It is not a one meeting process. First meeting is just to disclose the brand and why you're selling it, because most of the buyers who are there in the market, which are MNCs and global companies, the first thing that comes to their mind is there any issue with the product or is there any legal complexity? That is why is he selling? That is the first thing that comes to their mind. So you have to make sure that is all the paperwork or the legal paperwork is clear. Get your CAs. My CA was involved left and right. My lawyers were involved left and right. They were completely with me. They say, okay, sir, I know it's a hard decision, but if you want to do it, these are the documents which we have to make sure we comply to. Getting all these documents complied, making sure they are facilitating to those global brand that I sold it to. All those things made up into a space. And obviously the negotiation part, it took me roughly around 3 months for negotiations.
Okay.
To upfront, to and fro. So every 15 days we used to have like one entire day of meeting, and every meeting we used to have something or the other. If I give you this would be my best bet. If I would be the owner, if I could get a royalty, if what are the royalty charges, how much would I charge for the royalty, what is your strategy, how much percentage would I get, would I get a percentage on invoice, would I get a percentage on the quality, on the quantity, would I get a percentage on the pricing? So there are multiple factors to be associated with. Where I thought was best for me was getting the royalty. So because it was my baby right from R&D, so royalty was my first and foremost structure. And then I had placed my biggest bet on invoicing, because tomorrow they can invoice a product at whatever price that they want. They can practically start selling a product at 2 rupees or 5 rupees, whatever they feel comfortable, just to kill the market or to capture some other markets. So I had done is basically whatever is manufactured, I had done a deal. I want a royalty. Royalty was 1.8%, which I started with 2.5%. I ended up at 1.8%. So royalty was one factor. And second thing was I did a pricing structure on the output of the plant. So how much plant output? So let's say today you produce 50 tons. 50 tons billing equals to this, equals to my remuneration. That is all. Now you might sell at 10 rupees, you might sell 100 rupees, I don't care. Because now the brand is yours. I will not be interfering with those brands or the pricing that you would structure. I want output, because that output remains constant. No company will shut down the output per se. So that was my biggest thing to work on. Yeah, it took time. It took almost 6 to 8 months getting end to end everything. Negotiation started 3 months, but making myself adjustment to setting up a brand took me almost 3 months for those things to run.
Did it feel like a loss or achievement?
So good question. Never thought of it as an achievement. I always felt it as a loss, because it's like it was my baby. So having your baby, getting it right from the scratch, making it all grow up, making it into a good brand which competes against the globals, competes against the MNCs, where they were actually scared that he might take a bigger share or chunk of the market. So getting into it, I feel that is lost. But also I feel achieved is I feel a sense of achievement is I was with the family, which was much more important for me. Being with the family for the family was one of the important factors. So that was an achievement. WeHydrate as a brand, yes, it was a loss for me, but as an individual, I achieved a lot. I was more of the family person that I wanted to be.
So, what was your first feeling after the deal is done?
First feeling, actually, I cried for almost 2 to 3 days. So that was one big headache that I had to overcome out of. Obviously, my family, my parents, my wife's actual parents as well, my friends, everyone supported me during that 2 to 3 days because I was completely disheartened. It was like seeing something that you grow from scratch and then just vanishes. It actually felt like, what a farmer feels when he's growing a crop and just because of certain bad weather your crop gets deteriorated. What he feels, I mean, I know it is, he does it at a very larger scale and bigger feelings attached to it, but for me, I could sense, let's say, 1% of the pain that he suffers, and that 1% itself was deteriorating for me. I cried for about 2 3 days, but then I made peace with it. I said, no, this is what I've done. I've done for betterment of family and betterment for myself. So let me work on that.
After selling, it was your emotional decision.
Yes.
So, after selling, what is going to be your next strategy to build again a new product with a brand and get it ahead and sell it, or would like to continue with keeping the product and developing it?
So right now, to be honest with you, uh, obviously my kid is still younger, so I still want to focus on family. So it's not that I'm going to get into any new venture immediately. So that I will be taking a bit of my own time, maybe some years, to just making sure everything right. As I told you, it took me 2 to 3 years to just build this entire structure. So I know it is again going to take me that time. I am again going to be 20 hours working. At that age, at that health, how much I can donate is also one thing. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm helping most of these ventures, startups, with how they can build a product right from scratch. Because most of the brands or most of the startups that I see nowadays, they are just focused on marketing and sales. They are not focused on quality. They are not focused on the core root of the product. I mean, if your core root is that strong, that is, I personally feel like, if you take any big brand, if you keep the quality consistent, if you keep the quality day in day out consistent, if you know the root of how a product is to be done, I mean, the sales would happen, the marketing would happen itself. You take any brand, I don't want to name any brands. You take any big company, any big brands. If you are able to focus on the core root, you are able to solve every issue. Now, today when I talk to all these ventures, all these startups, youngsters, everyone, like, youngsters, combination young and old people, all they're like, I just first asked them, you're getting into this, perfect. How many times have you been in the lab and worked on it? They say, okay, once or twice. That doesn't make sense. If you're working in a lab for once or twice, that means you yourself don't know what the product is all about. If you don't know what the product is all about, you don't know the core of the product, you don't know the chemistry of the products, how are you able to convince yourself that, okay, this is actually better for me? Any of this, it might not be like a beverage, it may be food, it could be any product in the market. But one thing that you have to be more focused on is the core root. So now, right now, what I'm doing is I'm helping most of the ventures, small ventures, small startups, making them across the whole board, how to understand the market, how to get into all these things. Data obviously plays a critical role. So getting them the right data that is required also one of the essential parts that I help them with right now. So that's what I'm doing. Yes, looking at future, not planned immediately that I might get into any other new personalized venture per se. Maybe down the years of line, maybe, or something maybe is already cooking in my brain. Yeah, it will come up soon.
If the WeHydrate got an offer 5 years from now, would you ever still say yes on?
No, absolutely. I told you that the moment of time I sold WeHydrate was emotional and was family. 5 years down the line, if I think my family, everything is stable, I can fully focus.
Why I'm asking this? Because it was your decision was to sell was emotional.
Yes.
but getting money is a pure strategic.
Yeah.
So after getting money,
Oh, okay. That is no. I
is
mean,
your perceptions still same, or you will think यार उस वक्त और ज्यादा करके बेचा रहता.
to be honest with you, I'm still I'm still of those that core R&D guy that I am. I will never sell anything of for money. For me, money came secondary. For me, first thing was better for community, getting good product out, making sure the quality is consistent. That was my first focus. Money will come and go. One thing that I learned from my father is he helped me a lot in and out. One thing he told me straightforward is, you maintain quality, you maintain consistency, you maintain good customer relationships, your product will sell. Money will come. Money will come to you if you do all these things. So obviously, hard work, there is no substitution to hard work. You have to get your hard work done. You have to make sure you're giving the best quality each and every day out. People work on cost cuttings and everything else. That comes a secondary part of it once you are established in the market. I most of these startups, when I talk to, as I was telling you, most of the startups are, oh, you know what, we can reduce the cost here, we can reduce this and gain more profit margins. I like, don't look at profit margin initially. Look at building a brand. Look at gaining customer trust, customer confidence. Once the customer trust is there, once the customer confidence is there, they will buy your product. That is for sure. And then you can, once your product gets, so see, once the cash flow is king in business, once the cash flow starts to roll in, all you have to do is then you work on the cost cutting. Yes, cost cutting, no doubt, is the most critical factor. You have to work on it. That works on later on at bit. First is getting this trust out. So 5 years down the line, if I have a WeHydrate, I will never sell it off. I'll still do it. Maybe I know money minds, money things, and all those things are there. But no, personally, no. I will never sell off a branded.
So any product you have finalized after WeHydrate that you can develop?
Yeah. So there are multiple. Actually, with WeHydrate, as I told you, I already had these 7-8 products lined up, and there was one more extension that I was looking forward to. Is basically called as functional beverages, which is not that familiar to India right now. But I know the Gen Zs, they are all social media driven. Whatever happens in Europe or US, they can see it within span of few seconds, and they know this works for them. Like, you take one brand, like that brand suddenly becomes a hype in India. Every kid, every youngster wants that brand. So I already knew that what was happening in the global market, and how can I get that global market to India. At the same time, I did not wanted to get all these global flavors, prickly pear and all those different passion fruits and everything. I don't wanted to get into. I wanted Indian flavors, and that is what I was going to export it back to these communities. So the idea is hydration, functional beverages. It was plant-based beverages, all vegan-based beverages, organic beverages. So all that lineup was already set in my brain. Yeah, well, let's see, one step at a time. Right now, focused on what I'm helping out with youngsters, and then working with a bit later on.
Okay, Yash, tell me what people typically misunderstood about the founders who decided to exit.
Okay, so personally, I know I've had a lot of criticism. First thing that comes
because in abroad, if you sell, people do party.
Yeah.
But in India, मैंने बेच दिया. अरे क्यों? क्या हुआ?
That's true. That's true. I know. I have had exactly same references from, not from immediate family, but a subordinate families as well. So they used to say, friends, "Arey yaar, you're doing so good. We are buying your products in and out. I was carrying your products when I used to travel and everything else. Why have you sold? Why are you selling your company? Is there any financial losses? Is there any issues and everything else?" So I know all these things. So first thing, that when you sell a brand or when you sell a product, the first thing, a brand or a company, the first thing that comes to people's mind is product nahi chal raha hoga. Number one. Number two, he's gone bankrupt. He doesn't have money to sustain. Number three is he's facing some legal issues. which is why he has cases on him. He has certain clauses on him for which he's not able to cope up. That is why he's selling. These are the first primary three reasons that I used to face. The first reason I used to face is क्या हो गया? Brand, you are working with such a great brand, everything else, everything was perfect. Uh, are you looking for funds? Because I know you're bootstrapped, so do you need funding? I can help you with these things and that thing. I know this investor, that angel investor. Like, no. So I had my own thoughts of why selling, but these are things will come, and every startup will face this when they are about planning to sell. They can have their own reasons of selling. Sometimes some people that I know that they want to build a brand so that they can sell in next 2 to 3 years. That's the psychology. I know I've been with a couple of brands. I'm helping them out. I ask them what is the vision. Their vision is very clear. We are into this as part-time. Our main work that we are doing is IT or some other corporate banking stuff that we are doing. We have enough money that we know, and we know people who are ready to invest with us with the idea that we have. We want this idea to jump to a level where we are not making a lot of money, but we are actually getting some profit. We are not in losses, we are making some profit. The moment we are making some profit, we know there is a buzz word created around it. The moment the buzz is there, we'll try to practically sell it off after 2 to 3 years and gain the profit margins. So it becomes like an investment plan for them, more over to
So company was their product.
yeah. So everyone has their own ways of looking at it. Looking at people's perspective, as you were talking, people first thing they say, they are a bit shocked if whenever you sell anything, they're like, why are you selling, what is happening, financials. I don't know why everyone in India, uh, so every person that I met during that point of time was either my financial guru, or was either my mental guru, was either my some other guru. So they used to give me all these, we can do this, we can do that. No one understood. Like when I used to tell them, okay, I'm selling it for these. No, then why don't you sell it to some person who can work for a while, and then you can take him back from him and all those things. So everyone became like a technical guru and entrepreneur guru for me, and I was like, no, this doesn't work like that. There is some logic associated with it. There is some thought process associated with it. So that's one thing to look forward to.
So you are the first generation
Yes.
entrepreneur. So what are the lessons you learned in your journey, and what you would like to share to the other founders? Like, what are your biggest mistakes building WeHydrate,
Okay.
and what did it cost you?
Okay. So first thing is uh, so being a first entrepreneur, you have to get support. Biggest thing is your family, your friends, or your circle around you. You have to have your support. So I believe in the four gas theory, four burner theory. So you have a limited amount of gas where you can donate each to each category. So that is where you have to focus on. And when I was working, I was doing this WeHydrate as a brand and everything around it, to say, I learned lessons the hard way. So first lesson is I learned is the regulatory. That plays a key vital role. I had developed a product. The product was nice, everything was, but then the regulator said, no, this product cannot have these ingredients. This product cannot have that ingredient. This product cannot be packaged like this. So first, regulatory part. Second part is you are getting into all these FSI regulations. You've done with it. You're good to go. Your product is ready. Next part is, oh, you don't have a website. Building that website, it was a huge headache. I know you give them one idea, they give you four ideas. So building a website, building a social media platform, it was also a big hassle to me. And amongst all this, biggest challenge is manufacturing. That stage you cannot omit. For the first week, I clearly remember I actually would have my hands on in grease. My clothes were all dirty because some other part would not work. Some other part would start to malfunction. Some other in India, we know, there's very famous thing with lights that we have. So electricity used to go in the mid run. So electricity used to go in mid run, then the entire machine has to be back recalibrated so that it works to the right amount again. making sure that your yield is more. So first production, my yield was only 55%. Second production, it jumped down to 50%. Third production went to 45%. Like something is happening wrong. So getting those are the lessons I learned the hard way. I lost a lot of products. I lost almost uh, I would say tons and tons of product was initially wasted because something or other used to happen in machinery, something or other happens to plant, or the product was not getting packed properly, the packaging used to fail, the rolling used to fail, something or the other sort used to happen. So I learned that the hard way. Touchwood, I was able to, like the team of we are able to rectify all those needs and everything else. That is on the operation sides. Now coming to the financial sides or the commercial side, there are multiple lessons. There are people to thug you out. They will give you lucrative offers which you would fall into. And I really hope everyone falls into it. Why? Because once you fall into it, you realize the importance of being very cautious. You don't read the documentations, you don't read everything very carefully. Just probably just sign it off and give it to distributor, have those agreements done, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that because the agreement says like this, and then you are having a bit of hassle. Learned the hard way, was able to recover from it. One more thing in this was the distributor fight. So you are a owner, you are a manufacturer of a brand, you are a manufacturer of a product. There are distributors, and you have to fight distributors because distributors are like, he's selling in my area, he's selling in my area, he has my customer, he's targeting my customers. And so you have, at that point of view, you have to satisfy both the distributors, and there will be clashes. I cannot differentiate, okay, you will sell only to east side of Pune, you cannot sell to west side of Pune. That cannot happen because the distributors say, I have got, my retailers are sitting in that area as well, my retailers are sitting in this area as well. How am I supposed to? Then there's super stockist fight. So there was super stockist sitting I had a super stockist sitting in Fursungi. I had a super stockist sitting in Pimpri Chinchwad. Now both were able to target the station area, and they're like, we are able to do station, so it will be served by us. It will be served by us. So all those fights would happen, and you get a hold of it. First couple of fights, you feel, what are you doing? Why my product is there? But you have to make sure you are satisfying both of them, and then you get the right things out. So lessons learned the hard way. So first lesson, obviously, you have to focus on is making your regulatory aspects right or legality aspects right in any of the industries that you're in. Second thing is getting your marketing approach right, because your marketing plays a key vital role nowadays. So marketing approach has to be in the right format. Learn it the hard way. People will do it. Do not avoid the mistakes. As I've told you that certain lucrative offers will come, to try to avoid them. So try not to fall for those traps. There would be offers, there would be some ads, and Google will also do it, Facebook will do it, for all the social media platforms will have their own ads and everything. Try it out, test it yourself. That is the time you understand. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. That is, everyone has their own fate, that we call it. But that is one thing. First thing, operations, legality, operations, then comes your marketing part of it, and fourth and foremost is making sure that your distributors are happy and the product is priced rightly in the right manner. There would be fights that one distributor is he's selling it to the retailer at the right price, but he's selling at giving some other discounts which you have not sanctioned to him. So you have to get into those factors as well and making everything right on place.
Okay. So Yash,
Yeah,
thank you for your time and sharing your WeHydrate journey.
absolutely. No, it was.
And you gave a new perspective, though you are in consumer product,
Yeah.
but still business तो business होता है. So basics change नहीं होते.
No, the basics of business, they never change. Actually, thank you for having me here again. It was lovely talking to you. Business perspective never changes. Certain things that you have to focus as a new entrepreneurs or new founders or startups is make sure you have the right quality. First thing is your quality. Second thing is your pricing. Third thing is your customer feedback. And fourth thing is your customer representation. You have to have the best customer service. Nowadays, if you have the best product, but you're not able to have good customer service, it will fall off. If you have great marketing, you have some hero, some athlete, and everything who are there with you. Everyone is there with you, and great marketing initiatives you have, but you're not able to capitalize on the cost. Again, your product will fail down. So making sure all these aspects are there, that's one thing that I would like all the founders and startups to focus on the core root of the product. Once you're focused there, then I would say sky's the limit for you. That's how it works out.
Okay, Yash. Thank you very much.
Thank you.